The Artemis drifted silently through the Kuiper Belt, its quantum-dampened hull rendering it virtually invisible to conventional sensors. Captain Sarah Chen stood at the bridge's observation window, watching distant stars glitter against the void. The experimental warship represented humanity's greatest technological achievement, though they'd gone to considerable lengths to ensure the rest of the galaxy wouldn't know that. Contact, bearing 340, Lieutenant Rodriguez announced from his sensor station. Large vessel, Drachnid Empire configuration. They're conducting a standard system sweep. Chen allowed herself a small smile. The Drachnids had been pushing deeper into human space lately, testing boundaries. They were about to get their first real look at humanity's capabilities, or rather, what humanity wanted them to see. Deploy the masking field, she ordered. Let them think we're running standard fusion drives and metallic hull plating. Time to play primitive. The Artemis quantum core hummed almost imperceptibly as it generated a false sensor profile. To the approaching Drachnid vessel, they would appear to be using technology centuries behind their actual capabilities. The deception had been meticulously crafted over years of studying Drachnid scanning methods. The alien vessel grew larger on their screens, a massive warship shaped like an elongated diamond, its crystalline hull gleaming with an inner light. The Drachnids were known throughout the galaxy as technological supremacists who judged other species' worth by their apparent level of advancement. "They're hailing us," Communications Officer Park reported. "Standard first contact protocols." On screen, Chen commanded, straightening her uniform. The alien that appeared was exactly as intelligence had described, towering and aristocratic, with iridescent scales and 4 arms. Its expression carried the familiar superiority they'd seen in all their surveillance footage. "Unidentified vessel," the Drachnid commander's translated voice dripped with disdain. "You have entered space claimed by the Drachnid Empire. Your primitive craft will power down and prepare for inspection." Chen adopted an appropriately anxious expression. "This is Captain Chen of the Earth vessel Artemis. We weren't aware this region had been claimed. We're conducting a routine patrol of our system's outer bodies." The Drachnid's secondary eyes narrowed. "Earth? Ah yes, the newly spacefaring species. Your kind barely escaped your gravity well a century ago. Your presence here is quaint." Behind Chen, her crew maintained perfect composure despite the insults. They'd trained for months for this encounter. Every reaction had to be precisely calibrated to reinforce the Drachnids' assumptions about human technological capability. "We mean no offense," Chen replied, allowing a slight tremor in her voice. "We'll withdraw immediately to our inner system." The Drachnid commander's scales rippled with amusement. "No need for hasty retreat, Captain. We're quite curious about your modest vessel. Perhaps a demonstration of our superior capabilities would be educational for your species." The alien ship's weapon systems powered up, nothing that could seriously damage the Artemis, but enough to frighten what they perceived as a primitive craft. Chen gave the tiniest nod to her tactical officer. When the Drachnid energy beam struck, the Artemis shuddered dramatically. In reality, their quantum shields had barely registered the impact, but the masking field projected the image of a ship barely surviving the hit. "Please," Chen called out, "we meant no challenge to your authority. Our hull can't withstand another blast like that." The Drachnid commander preened visibly. "Consider this a lesson in humility, humans. The galaxy belongs to those with true mastery of technology. Return to your inner system and remember your place." As the Artemis limped away at sublight speed, Chen's crew maintained their act until they were well out of sensor range. Only then did she allow herself to relax. "Send the full sensor data to Fleet Command," she ordered. The Drachnids performed exactly as expected, arrogant, dismissive, and completely convinced of their superiority. Lieutenant Rodriguez grinned as he compiled the readings. "They didn't even bother scanning us thoroughly after their demonstration. Their arrogance is going to be their downfall." Chen nodded, watching the alien vessel shrink into the distance. The Drachnids thought they'd encountered a primitive species barely worth their notice. They had no idea they'd just met humanity's most advanced warship, or that their every reaction had been carefully cataloged and analyzed. "Their overconfidence is our greatest advantage," she said quietly. "By the time they realize humanity isn't as primitive as we appear, it will be far too late." The Artemis quantum core pulsed with barely restrained power as they headed back to Earth. The first phase of humanity's long-term strategy was complete. The Drachnids would report back about the barely spacefaring humans, never suspecting that their own technological supremacy was about to be challenged. Phase 2 would begin soon enough, and when it did, the galaxy would learn that humanity had been far from primitive all along. 6 months after the Kuiper Belt encounter, the Artemis's bridge hummed with suppressed tension. Captain Chen studied the tactical display where 5 Drachnid warships had taken up aggressive positions around Earth's lunar colonies. "They're broadcasting their ultimatum on all frequencies," Park reported from communications. "The Drachnid Empire is demanding Earth's immediate surrender and integration into their protective custody." Chen exchanged knowing looks with her crew. The Drachnids had spent months testing Earth's defenses, growing bolder with each incursion. Their scans had detected the rapid expansion of human lunar facilities, but dismissed them as primitive mining operations. They had no idea they were looking at the largest military manufacturing complex in the sector. "Their flagship is hailing us directly," Park announced. "It's Commander Vexthal, the same one from our first encounter." The familiar scaled face appeared on screen, somehow managing to look even more condescending than before. "Captain Chen, how pleasant to see your quaint vessel again. I trust you've remembered the lesson we taught you about technological superiority." Chen allowed herself a small smile. "Oh, we learned quite a lot from that encounter, Commander. In fact, we've been learning from every one of your incursions into our space." Vexthal's secondary eyes blinked in confusion at her calm demeanor. "Then you understand the futility of resistance. Your species will benefit greatly from Drachnid guidance. In time, you may even advance beyond your primitive fusion drives." "About that," Chen replied, her smile widening. "Lieutenant Rodriguez, disengage the masking field. Let's show the commander what 6 months of studying their scanning techniques has taught us." The Artemis's false sensor profile vanished. Vexthal physically recoiled as his sensors suddenly detected the ship's true nature. The quantum core, the advanced shields, weapons that his systems couldn't even classify. "Impossible," he sputtered. "These readings, they must be false. Your species couldn't have hidden such advances. The Artemis was never primitive, Commander. We simply let you see what you expected to see. Humanity has been preparing for galactic contact for decades. We just needed to understand how potential adversaries would react." Around the Artemis, space itself seemed to ripple as 20 more human warships dropped their masking fields. The lunar facilities blazed to life, revealing vast defense networks that had been invisible to Drachnid scans. "Your entire battle group is now surrounded," Chen continued pleasantly. "Those mining operations you dismissed, their quantum weapon emplacements, the debris fields you ignored, automated defense platforms. We've been building our arsenal in plain sight while you were busy underestimating us." Vexthal's scales had lost their luster. This changes nothing. The Empire will not be threatened by deceptive primitives. All ships, open fire. The Drachnid vessels launched a devastating barrage, or tried to. Their weapons dissipated harmlessly against shields they couldn't comprehend. The Artemis didn't even shudder. "Lieutenant Rodriguez," Chen ordered, "demonstrate our point. Single shot, minimal power. Target their flagship's propulsion system." A beam of concentrated quantum energy lanced out from the Artemis. It passed through the Drachnid flagship's shields as if they didn't exist, precisely severing its main engine cluster. The massive ship began to drift, its power systems fluctuating. "That was approximately 5% of our weapon capacity," Chen informed the stunned commander. "Your shields are based on technology we deciphered and surpassed decades ago." The only reason we maintained our masquerade was to understand how your empire treats those you consider inferior. The remaining Drachnid ships were backing away, their crews finally realizing the magnitude of their mistake. Humanity hadn't been hiding out of fear. They'd been observing, learning, and preparing. "Take this message back to your empire," Chen said firmly. "Humanity has no interest in conquest or domination. We developed our technology in secret because we wanted to understand our neighbors before revealing our true capabilities. Your treatment of supposedly primitive species told us everything we needed to know." As the Drachnid ships retreated in disarray, Chen turned to her crew. "Send word to Fleet Command. The deception phase is over. It's time to show the galaxy that humanity is ready for a real dialogue. As equals." The Artemis's quantum core pulsed with barely contained power, no longer hidden behind false readings. Humanity's greatest warship had finally revealed its true nature, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Drachnid Empire's response came 3 weeks later. Not with diplomats or negotiations, but with the largest invasion fleet seen in a century. Captain Chen stood on the Artemis's bridge, watching the tactical display as thousands of Drachnid warships emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. The Empire had called in forces from every corner of their territory, determined to crush the upstart humans who had dared to challenge their technological supremacy. "They've deployed in attack formation," Rodriguez reported, his fingers dancing across his console. 500 capital ships, over 2,000 support vessels. They're broadcasting on all frequencies. Supreme Admiral Kexthor's massive hologram dominated the bridge. Unlike the previous Drachnid commanders, his expression held no contempt, only cold fury. "You have 20 minutes to surrender Earth and all its colonies," he announced. "Your deception ends today. The Empire will not tolerate such insolence from a species barely out of its cradle." Chen remained calm as she responded. "Admiral, I would strongly advise against this course of action. Your Empire's assessment of human capabilities remains fundamentally flawed." "We have analyzed the technology you revealed," Kexthor sneered. "Impressive tricks, but nothing that can stand against the combined might of the Empire. Your quantum weapons. We have already developed countermeasures." A small smile played at Chen's lips. "You've developed countermeasures based on the technology we chose to reveal. Admiral, why do you think we maintained our deception for so long? Everything you've seen, everything you've analyzed, was exactly what we wanted you to see." For the first time, uncertainty flickered across the Admiral's features. "You're bluffing. Our scans show only 50 ships defending your system." "Chief Engineer Wallace," Chen called out, "initiate Protocol Omega. Let's show the Admiral why humanity spent decades preparing for this moment." The space around Earth seemed to shimmer as hundreds of quantum fields deactivated simultaneously. The Admiral's 4 eyes widened as his sensors registered what had been hidden in plain sight. Massive orbital defense platforms, automated drone carriers, and most significantly, the true extent of Earth's fleet. "Impossible," Kexthor whispered. 300 quantum-class warships, Chen informed him. 2,000 automated defense vessels, and technology that's been specifically developed to counter Drachnid tactics. "You see, Admiral, while you were busy underestimating us, we were studying every aspect of your military doctrine." The Drachnid fleet began to adjust its formation, but Chen could see the uncertainty in their movements. Everything they thought they knew about human capabilities had just been proven wrong. "Last chance, Admiral," Chen offered. "Withdraw your fleet. We don't want this war, but we're more than prepared for it." Kexthor's scales darkened with rage. "The Empire does not retreat. All ships, commence the attack. Show these deceptive primitives the true meaning of power." The Drachnid fleet surged forward, their weapons blazing. Energy beams and plasma torpedoes filled space, heading toward Earth's defenses. Chen watched calmly as the assault approached. "All ships, execute Battle Plan Theta," she ordered. "Show them what humanity can really do." The human fleet moved with perfect coordination, implementing tactics the Drachnids had never seen. Quantum fields bent space itself, causing enemy fire to miss its targets entirely. Human ships phased through Drachnid formations, their advanced weapons bypassing shields that had been considered impenetrable. The Artemis led the charge, its true capabilities finally unleashed. Its quantum weapons didn't just disable enemy ships, they temporarily removed sections of them from normal spacetime, causing the vessels to break apart under their own structural stress. By the first ones, Kexthor gasped as he watched his fleet being systematically dismantled. "What are you?" "We are humanity," Chen replied simply. "We spent generations preparing for our place in the galaxy. We developed our technology in secret because we watched how your empire treated those you considered inferior. Every encounter, every scan, every dismissive interaction, it all helped us prepare for this day." The battle continued for hours, but the outcome was never in doubt. The Drachnid fleet, for all its numbers, was fighting an enemy that had specifically prepared for this conflict. Their tactics were predictable, their technology understood, their weaknesses known. As the last Drachnid capital ships retreated in disarray, Chen turned to her crew. "Send word to Earth Command. Phase 3 is complete. The galaxy now knows humanity's true strength." The Artemis quantum core pulsed with victory as debris from the battle drifted through space, a testament to the folly of underestimating humanity's potential. The war wasn't over, but its most crucial battle had been won. The galaxy would never look at Earth the same way again. The halls of the Drachnid High Command buzzed with panic as reports flooded in from across their empire. Supreme Admiral Kexthor stood before the Imperial Council, his scales dulled with shame as he delivered the news no one wanted to hear. "The humans," he paused, struggling to maintain composure, "they're not just defending their territory anymore. They're systematically dismantling our defense networks. 3 core worlds have already fallen silent." Meanwhile, aboard the Artemis, Captain Chen studied tactical displays showing the human fleet's advance through Drachnid space. After the Battle of Sol, Earth's leadership had made a decisive choice. The Empire's aggression couldn't go unanswered. "Status report on Operation Checkmate," Chen commanded, watching as green indicators marked successful mission completions across the star map. Commander Wallace, recently promoted after his brilliant handling of the quantum systems during the Sol defense, stepped forward. "Phase 1 complete, Captain. Our stealth teams have disabled their primary communication relays. The Empire's worlds are now isolated from each other." The Artemis led the vanguard of humanity's counteroffensive, but this wasn't a campaign of destruction. Each world they approached received the same message. Surrender wasn't necessary, only acceptance of a new reality. "Incoming transmission," Park announced. "It's from the Drachnid colony of Vexthor Prime. They're requesting peaceful contact." Chen allowed herself a small smile. "Put them through." The holographic display showed a group of Drachnid civilians and local officials, their postures submissive but dignified. "Captain Chen," their spokesperson began, "we've seen the footage from Sol. Our military leaders were wrong about humanity. We request dialogue." This was exactly what humanity had hoped for. Their strategy wasn't about conquest, it was about forcing the Empire to recognize them as equals. "Quantum scan complete," Rodriguez reported. "No hidden weapons platforms, no buried fleet assets. They're genuine. Begin diplomatic protocols," Chen ordered, "and inform Earth Command that the first domino has fallen." As days passed, more Drachnid worlds followed suit. The Empire's carefully maintained image of technological supremacy had been shattered. Each world that opened dialogue with humanity learned the truth. Humans didn't want subjects or servants, they wanted partners. In the Drachnid capital system, panic turned to revolution. The Imperial Council found itself besieged not by human warships, but by their own people demanding change. Centuries of arrogance and oppression were crumbling in the face of humanity's measured response. The Artemis approached the capital world, its quantum drives humming quietly. Unlike the massive Drachnid ships designed to intimidate, Humanity's flagship represented something different, power tempered by restraint. "The Imperial Council is hailing us," Park announced. "They're requesting terms." Chen straightened in her command chair. This was the moment humanity had spent decades preparing for. On screen, the Council appeared, their once proud demeanor replaced by cautious respect. "Captain Chen," the High Chancellor spoke, "the Empire requests cessation of hostilities. We are prepared to acknowledge humanity as equals." "Chancellor," Chen replied, "humanity never wanted war. What we wanted, what we still want, is a galaxy where technological advancement doesn't equate to moral superiority, where species help each other grow instead of dominating those they consider primitive." She gestured to her crew, each member representing humanity's diverse heritage. "We hid our true capabilities not out of fear, but because we needed to understand who our neighbors really were. Your Empire's treatment of lesser species told us everything we needed to know." The Chancellor's scales shifted in patterns of shame and understanding. Perhaps it is time for the Empire to learn from those we once dismissed. "What do you propose?" Chen activated a holographic display showing a new galactic map, one where boundaries were marked by cooperation rather than conquest. "We propose a new beginning," she said. "A galactic society where advancement is measured not by weapons or territory, but by how we lift each other up. The choice is yours." As the Council deliberated, Chen looked around her bridge. Her crew stood proud, representatives of a species that had chosen wisdom over dominance, preparation over aggression. The Artemis quantum core pulsed steadily, a symbol of human ingenuity used not for conquest, but for change. The galaxy was transforming, and humanity was leading the way, not through force, but through example. The tables hadn't just turned, they had been completely reinvented. 1 year after the fall of the Drachnid Empire, the Great Hall of Earth's Global Assembly hosted an unprecedented gathering. Captain Chen, now Admiral Chen, stood at the speaker's podium, looking out over an audience that would have seemed impossible just 18 months ago. Drachnid representatives sat alongside humans, their once bright scales now adorned with simpler, more humble markings. Among them were delegates from dozens of species previously suppressed by the Empire, races that had been deemed too primitive to have a voice in galactic affairs. "Welcome to the first assembly of the Galactic Cooperative," Chen began, her voice carrying across the silent hall. "Today marks not just the end of one era, but the beginning of something unprecedented in our galaxy's history." The Artemis hung in orbit above, its quantum core now powering a network of communication relays that united formerly isolated worlds. What had been conceived as humanity's ultimate weapon had become a symbol of connection and progress. Former Supreme Admiral Kexfor, now serving as the Drachnid's chief diplomat, rose to speak. "A year ago, I commanded a fleet meant to subjugate Earth. Today, I stand here humbled by human wisdom. You could have destroyed us. Instead, you showed us a better way." The changes across former Drachnid space had been dramatic. Without the burden of maintaining technological supremacy, their society had flourished in unexpected ways. Their scientists, freed from military obligations, had made groundbreaking discoveries in medicine and environmental restoration. Commander Wallace, monitoring the proceedings from the Artemis, sent a private message to Chen's datapad. "Quantum core efficiency up 300% thanks to Drachnid crystal technology. Turns out cooperation works better than conquest." Chen smiled as she continued her address. "The greatest power isn't in weapons or technology. It's in the choice of how to use them. Earth kept its advances secret not to deceive, but to understand. We needed to know if the galaxy was ready for partnership instead of dominance." She gestured to the diverse assembly before her. "Look around you. Species that were once deemed primitive are now sharing breakthroughs in physics, medicine, and quantum mechanics. The Drachnid's greatest mistake wasn't underestimating human technology. It was underestimating the power of cooperation." The assembly hall's displays showed real-time images from across the galaxy. former Drachnid warships repurposed as research vessels, working alongside ships from once suppressed civilizations. Quantum technology, shared freely, powering new colonies and healing damaged worlds. This is humanity's true victory, Chen declared. Not the defeat of an empire, but the birth of a community. Every species has something to teach, something to contribute. Technology without wisdom is just another form of violence. As if to emphasize her point, the Artemis initiated a quantum field that created a spectacular aurora above the assembly hall. The same technology that had once torn Drachnid ships apart now created beauty that united former enemies in awe. The galaxy once feared human deception, Chen concluded. Now they understand it was human wisdom. We hid our strength not to dominate, but to ensure that when we finally revealed ourselves, it would be to worthy partners, not fearful subjects. The assembly erupted in approval, dozens of species united in a common purpose. The Drachnids, once the galaxy's proudest empire, had found greater satisfaction in partnership than they ever had in dominance. As Chen looked out over the celebration, she thought about the long journey that had brought them here. Humanity had emerged on the galactic stage, not as conquerors or victims, but as architects of a new way forward. The Artemis would remain humanity's flagship, but its mission had transformed. The most advanced warship ever built now served as a symbol of unity, its quantum core powering dreams instead of weapons. In the end, humanity's greatest achievement wasn't in deceiving the Drachnids about their capabilities. It was in showing the galaxy that true power lies not in technological superiority, but in the wisdom to use it for the benefit of all. The new galactic order wasn't built on fear or domination, but on a simple truth humanity had known all along. The greatest victories aren't won through force, but through understanding. As the assembly continued their celebrations, Chen sent a final message to her old crew aboard the Artemis. Mission accomplished. The galaxy didn't need another empire. It needed a reminder that technology without wisdom is meaningless. Humanity didn't just change the balance of power. We changed the meaning of power itself. The quantum core pulsed one final time, its energy now forever dedicated to creation instead of destruction. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Never underestimate humanity, not for their technology, but for their capacity to imagine a better way forward.